Hey, Mr. Pete Devkota.
Hey John, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're looking very fit and healthy, man. It's great to see.
Thank you, thank you. I'm
What
in a
did you
good
change?
space.
What
Good
did you change?
space. Um, let me see if you can hear this.
No, can't hear anything.
You can't?
No,
Okay.
it's your voice
I'll send you.
isolation.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. I've been working on the internal stuff a lot.
Hmm. The inner voice.
The inner voice. I just watched. Listening to a podcast by I think Dr. Joe Spinunja. I think I butchered his name.
Joe
Um,
Dispenza?
yeah, and he's talking about the power of silence.
Hmm.
And just retreating into yourself and tapping into the power that you already have.
Okay,
And
interesting.
I think that's the kind of headspace I'm in at the moment.
Fantastic. Um,
How you been? How you
I've
been?
been I've
Is
been
it is
pretty
this
good.
yeah, is this recording now? Like have you
Oh yeah,
started?
it's a rolling
Awesome.
start. Yeah, so be careful what you say. Don't make any controversial
Exactly.
statements. Don't talk about
Who's
American
winning the
politics.
elections?
Yeah.
uh, Gotta throw that in there.
I've been good, man. It's been I just came back from the gym about an hour ago. I was there with
That's
my
good.
dad this morning, and I've been out for a week. I got COVID, and it really kicked my
Yeah.
ass this time. Um, and then yeah, this morning at the gym, I was just like, I hate it. I don't want to be here, but I've got to be here. There's no plan B. There's no option.
Yeah, no, I've been hitting the gym as well, trying to go there at least a couple of times a week.
Yeah,
And just like, just focusing on the simple fundamentals, right? Like walk more, move more, like, eat proper, sleep proper,
yeah,
and just focus on like, listening to your inner voice, be happy, content, and act in the now. Like, don't worry about the past, don't think too much about the future, do things in the now. And that's changed. Like, it's a very good headspace to be in. I've had people talk to me right now and said, you look very calm and relaxed. I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm in Zen mode.
good. No, I can see your skin. I can see your hair. I can see your eyes. You're looking healthier and fitter than I've ever seen you before. It's great.
That's good. That's good. Cut down a lot on the good old bottle as well. So
Good, good. Yeah. Hey, it's okay. I think, no, I think it's okay, occasionally or a few times a year, but habitual usage is just not good for the soul.
exactly. Anyways, let's dig straight into this. I've been excited about this podcast.
Cool. What are we going to talk about?
You tell me. You tell me.
Usually, when I bring
What?
people on, is to tell them, find out a bit more about them, about their ideas about business, who they are, what their philosophy is. Haven't you been watching my podcast, Pete? Oh my God, I'm so insulted.
Uh, no, I have been.
No. So just for everyone, I'm John Caprani. This is the Cash from Connections podcast. This is my friend Pete Devkota. We've known each other, what, about 4 years now,
Probably a
maybe?
bit more.
Yeah,
Probably a
since
bit
I think
more.
about 2020 we connected. And
Yeah.
it's now, yeah, I remember it was 2020 because I connected with you around the time I moved. I was staying in that hotel down in Carlow, which is
Ah,
miles away from
yes.
here, at the time I connected with you. So I remember exactly. It would have been around September, October 2020. I met you. It's now 2024. So
Almost four
almost four
years.
years.
Wow. Yeah.
And Pete runs an agency named Email Optimize and works in the DTC ecom space, helping companies with their retention marketing and LTV boosting. That be a fair statement?
Exactly. That'd be a first, like, that'd be a fair statement. I also work as a growth consultant in the same space. And I also dabble a little bit in AI as well. I've got a AI company,
Oh,
but fair
brilliant.
to say, yeah, fair to say, um, anything in the DTC space, that's my, like, that's my jam. And that's where I'm going to be for the next 20, 25 years.
Amazing. It's nice to have that simplicity and clarity of purpose, right?
exactly. And my dad, like, he told me once, doesn't really matter what you do, right? Like, you can be a dancer, you can be, you can wash dishes for a living, doesn't matter. Just whatever you do, just try to show up every day and try to be the best that you can in that
Hmm.
business, right? So, like, for a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be. It was always like, I want to make money, right? I want to be a millionaire. Um, Kind of turns out that like it doesn't work that way. You have to have a clear indication of what you want to do. And the funny thing is, a lot of people probably listening to this podcast would be like, thinking about, oh, I'm going to hit this target, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be happy. It doesn't work that way. You got to be happy and content with who you are right now and work yourself to become the person that you want to be. Um, like it just works that way. And if you're not making as much money as you would like to, plain and simple, you're just not adding enough value. And you might have your vehicle of making money wrong. So change those two things and you end up with all the money that you want. And you get it doing something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, I can't say there's anything I don't 100% agree with there. And it's, you actually have to choose to enjoy life before things start to go good for you. Because if you start to think about like there's some future state or some future achievement at which point I can start enjoying life, you're never getting there. It's not happening. You have to be feeling good about yourself and about life today. Or even if things are in a bit of a rough spot, you have to be just prepared to say, okay, today is what it is, and I just got to keep on going. Because
If you're actually not going through rough spots, you're not growing.
that
Like
too.
that's the way that I look at it now. Like everybody goes through these rough patches. I've been through so many rough patches that I've lost count, right? 12 months ago, I was in a rough patch. A couple of months ago, I was in a rough patch. These rough patches come and go, but it's about the problems never go away. You just have to work on yourself enough so you can become a man or a woman um, able to handle those problems, right? You grow into someone who can handle those problems. The problem is they never go away. In fact, the larger your dreams, the larger the problems that come straight at you like a 15,000 pound truck. Like they don't go away. They just keep on coming.
So for me and you knowing each other, Pete, more than usually put us to have on, I know that one thing that you've done a bit differently to other people who are marketers is you didn't focus on fulfillment of the service. You got yourself to a certain level of competence with the service delivery, but then you actually said, hey, well, you know what? This is not what grows a business. What grows a business is being really good at sales and building a big sales pipeline and selling more stuff and then having a team do the fulfillment for you so I can focus on growing the company. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Exactly. Yeah. So what I realized was I'll dive a little bit into how I got into copywriting. So I have an engineering background. I'm an aeronautical engineer. When I first got into copywriting, I always wanted to be a writer, but I had a choice, right? Like with like writers don't really make money. So I wanted to write a book, but then I thought, well, I might write a bestseller, but it's not the content of the book, it's a bestseller, right? So I need to learn how to sell. So I went headfirst into copywriting, started off with emails, and that's like, kind of the lane that I chose. Um, and then just focused on like, creating structures within the business that like, I could train team members on doing the stuff. Like you always have to learn, you always have to stay top of the curve to kind of know what's going on in the industry, but that's knowledge for yourself. The fulfillment is you have to pass it on to a team member or to a team, whatever you're doing, because that's the only way that you kind of remove that bottleneck, right? Otherwise you got 24 hours. Out of 24 hours, if you are doing the fulfillment plus the sales plus like maintaining relationships with clients, you don't have too much time to do anything, right? Whereas if you become a well-known person within an industry, right, and you focus on sales, um, and you have someone else like or a team fulfilling that service that you're selling, you end up like in a very good space. It doesn't mean though, like, I want to make it very, very clear. It doesn't mean that the quality has to drop, right? You have to make sure that your team members, the people that you hire, are far better at that stuff than you're ever going to be, right? So you're the person that's bringing the cash in. It's like a chef. You got all of these like, amazing ingredients, but you got to make sure that the product that's being served out, it's a beautiful dish, right? So that's your job, to make sure that you got the like, the sales pipeline filled, that the end delivery, which is what customers always look at, that's pretty much on top. And you're removing yourself as much from the like, the hands-on process as much as possible. Like, I had an email agency. I still have an email agency. I'm stupidly crap at design, right? I don't know anything to do with like, HTML, with CSS, with like, deliverability, all of that crap I have no idea about, right? But I did know that I could hire people that were much more talented than me that enjoy doing that thing, right? What did I enjoy doing? I enjoyed looking at the bigger picture, right? I enjoyed going to companies going, okay, here's what you can do. You can do this, remove that block. You can make a ton of more money, right? I enjoyed creating the strategy. I enjoyed writing the copy, right? And creating structures for other people to follow. So it was modeled based on my structure. So I'm still putting a ton of work in, but the actual fulfillment, the actual cooking of the dish is handled by other people. So I can focus on core strategy. I can focus on sales. And that's what has led to my agency generating $2.5 million in sales from Facebook organic, zero paid ads. About 40,000 of that came from cold calling and cold emails. But the rest of that just came from Facebook organic, relationship building, relationship nurturing. And if I was like, focused on all aspects of the business, I'd probably not even make 1/10 of that,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have the bandwidth. You're human.
Yeah, that's like a point I find myself at the moment, where I'm starting to get more, I've shifted from copywriting to lead generation. I'm starting to get more clients on board. My understanding of the actual mechanics of the running of the Facebook ads is now at a level where I'm still new-ish. I've been doing this 6 months, but I'm competent. And now it's like, okay, who can I find that I can, just train to do this part for me, so that I can kind of just stay
Look
on a high
into ad
level.
skills. Like look into ad skills. There's a
Hmm.
ton of great writers and media buyers there. And this is what I found. Like, don't hire one person and give them the sole responsibility. Hire three, right? At the same time. Have them compete against each other. Give them a 2 to 3 month window to outperform, right? Whoever's the best performer, those are the players that you want to hire, right? Because it's not only about finding someone that does the job properly. Do they have a good tuning? Do your wavelength match with your employees or your staff members, right? Because if they're great, they're genius, but like, you guys are always at war with each other, it's going to be a crappy relationship, right? So you have to spend as much time in the hiring process to make sure that the person that you've hired is of the top-notch quality that aligns with your systems, your beliefs, your values, and fits into your system, because it's your business, it's not anyone else's. So that's the main critical thing that I found, having gone through hundreds of disastrous hires and fires.
Well, this is, I think, also the hard thing is like, it's committing to, I mean, I've got one person now I've brought on. I'm talking with the second. And that first person, it's been a slow process of like building up the trust and like developing the relationship. But at each step along the way, I have to invest time in in training that person. So there has to be a feeling of trust, of like, this is time well spent, that this person is going to reciprocate in terms of their effort, and that they're going to stick around for a while. And I think that's the hardest
And
part, is to make that determination.
yeah, touching into this, what I've also found is you don't want to go with the cheapest hire, right?
Hmm.
Because it's going to be a very, very difficult journey and you're going to be hand holding that person. Like, now my approach to hiring is, okay, for example, I wanted to hire someone to help with like, the content generation side of things. Like, I know how to do content, I know how to copyright, I know how to do all of these things, but I don't have time. So what do? I find someone who's great at these things. And I say to them, look, this is what I want. This is a trial period. I want an A+ player that's within my budget, right? And that has the hunger and desire to grow and to prove a point, right? And then I want to make sure that they are making enough money where they're content, they're happy, that they don't want to hunt around for like, other jobs as well, because you want them to be solely focused. And if you want them to be solely focused, you've got to make sure that they're busy, right? And the only way that you can make sure that they're busy is if you focus on sales, right? So, like, I pay good money to my employees, like, anywhere from 5 to 25 times what an average person in the country makes.
Mhm.
And I'm happy doing it because I don't look at it in terms of, oh, I'm hiring someone from XYZ country. It's cheaper there. I'll pay them cheaper. I'm hiring in terms of, I'm looking for the best player that fits these criterias. I'm more than happy to pay someone as I would local, right? But the only reason that I'm going outside is I want the best talent, right? Just because they're in a different geographic location doesn't mean that I have to script, like, be cheap and tight on the payments that I make, right? Because if I pay them great compensation for the value that they're bringing to my business, and in return, I don't have to handhold them, right? I give them full responsibility and ownership, right? And I say, this is your job, own it, right? That way, it saves a ton of time on my end, and I don't have to double, triple check that everything is correct. Why? Because I've found the best players within my budget, right? I've made sure that they are tested, they're vetted, they're well verified, and I've also made sure that I've given them responsibility and ownership, right? Because that's what people want. People want stability. They want, like, a great opportunity for growth, right? And you want to do tiny things that, like, make them feel a valued member of your team. If you're just looking at them as, oh, this is a guy that's going to do fulfillment, and I get to hire this person for, like, say $1,000, and I can charge the client $3,000. If that's your thought process in the hiring process, you're going to end up losing big time, right? You have to understand that there's a different process and a different approach that you have to start taking, because if you think this way, you're going to attract players that are going to use you as a stepping stone, and they're going to go and look for different ventures. I got staff that have been with me for 7 years, right? That's loyalty.
Yeah, I think a key mistake that a lot of entrepreneurial people make is that they want to hire other entrepreneurial people. But in fact, oftentimes that's the worst kind of person they could hire. They want to hire somebody whose higher value is stability rather than sort of entrepreneurial excitement.
So this is another thing you just reminded me, right? So there's two type of people. There's entrepreneurs and there's intrapreneurs, right?
Hmm.
An entrepreneur is everything that an entrepreneur isn't, right? However, they do not have the capacity to take risk, right? So they're driven, they're motivated, they're, like, always, like, growth focused. They've got that growth mindset, that hunger, that desire, but they don't have the ability to take risk. That's the distinction between an entrepreneur and intrapreneur. So as an entrepreneur, you always want to hire an intrapreneur, right? And give them the environment to grow and progress, and for them to hit their own internal KPIs, right? And that way, there's no competition. A lot of times, people don't know this or understand this particular distinction, and they go out and they hire entrepreneurs, and they just end up causing competition, which is bad.
Yeah, absolutely. From your perspective, you've built your agency to completely, like you said, organically, mostly through Facebook. So what does that look like nowadays? I mean, where do your lead sources come from? Are they coming from your own content? Are they coming through referral? Where do you find new people come into your world?
So I've got a proprietary method of organic marketing that I call the sniper method of organic marketing.
Hmm.
And it's full blown. Like, it's like, basically, the way that I use it is I use it to take a dead cold lead that has no inkling, no idea that I exist. And over time, I turn them into a hot, hot, hot hyper prospect that is eager to jump on a call with me and pay me whatever I want to charge them for my services, right? It takes time. There's a ton of steps involved, but most of my organic sales come from that process.
Okay, so you have a repeatable method that you tend to use over and over.
Yes,
At a high level, would you like to walk us through that?
absolutely. I've never shared this to anyone except for my private mentoring clients, but I
Hmm.
will open up my notepad, and I'll give people a glimpse of what it is about, and then I'll walk them through it as well. A lot of people would find this very useful. Okay, where are we? Sniper method. There you go. I'm gonna share my screen if I
Go
can.
ahead.
I'll just run through it so people get the gist. I'm not gonna walk through all the process, but
Don't have to
they'll
give
get the
all the you
idea.
don't have to give all the trade secrets away.
You sure? Okay, then
Absolutely.
I'll just
You can keep it
I
breezy.
won't, yeah, I won't open the screen then. Okay, so basically what you want to do is most people focus organic marketing the wrong way. They put out content, 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 but there's no strategy behind it. The first thing
Mhm.
you got to do, you got to identify who you're serving, and then you got to build your audience, right, off those ICPs, which is ideal client profiles. So first of all, you identify and you create a list of 25 to 30 people who are your ideal prospects. I'm not going to say 100 because 100 is a big number and you're not going to get any type of traction. You won't be able to track, right? So first you identify your core prospects and then you add these people as favorites on Facebook. Facebook allows you to add 30 people, right, as favorites. Um, After that, after you've added them on as favorites, you scroll down their pages, you click on their links, and you spend about 3 to 5 minutes every day on the profile of your ICP, right? You don't comment all the time, but you engage. What this is trying to do is this is trying to trick the algorithm into becoming a native user, right? You're trying to trick the algorithm. If someone is coming on and every day you're spending a couple of minutes at that profile, even if you take no action, zero clicks, zero comments, Facebook algo is going to recognize and match, right? And their content is going to start showing up on your feed, and your content is going to start showing up on their feed,
Mhm.
right? So now you've created that audience because at its core, what is Facebook? Facebook is a platform that wants people to engage and spend as much time on the app as possible, right? The more time you and I spend on the app, the more money they can make from advertisers. So you're basically trying to manufacture engagement. The AI engines notice and start placing your prospects page on your feed, but engagement's a two-way street, right? They want that person to talk to you, so your stuff starts getting shown on their feed as well.
Mhm.
You need to create your feed. Every ad that does not serve your purpose or every content that does not serve your purpose, you either hide, snooze, and unsubscribe, right? You have to use Facebook as business. You don't use it for sharing cat videos and just talking, right? A lot of the times people post content for the sake of posting content and it devalues. Top rule that you got to understand, if you're a one top percent off the industry, right, are you going to engage in that political bullshit? If you're a top 1% off your industry, are you going to engage in click and bait? Are you going to engage in stuff that is totally beneath what a top 1%er would do? If so, don't do that. Don't engage in that. Start thinking like a 1%er. Take actions like a 1%er. You become the 1%er. That's how you become an expert in your chosen field. But you got to give it time. It took me 3 years of doing this continuously before I started positioning myself as an authority, right? Now people refer to me as an authority in the specific niche that I work in. Why? Because I manufactured that. It does not come out of nowhere, right? Another thing you want to do is, as you're spending more time with this person, you actually start to immerse into their lifestyle, right? There's some energy transfer that happens just because you're spending so much time. They become much more relatable, right? So down the track, when you do get on a call, there's snippets of information that you can instantly pull out from your head and you can create some sort of like, uh, rapport and relationship with that person, right? So you're transferring all of the time that you spent on that first call. A lot of times people outsource this to a VA, outsource this to someone else. You don't get that connection, right? Because you've not spent time there, right? It's almost like you see an ad many, many, many times. There's an instant connection, right? And people can sense it. People can feel it. That's what you're trying to manufacture here. Then, as you spend more time, you see these people having problems, right? So, for example, I don't do media buying. This person is looking for a media buyer, right? I do an introduction instantly. I'm like, hey, here's this media buyer. Look, I'm only trying to give. And number one, this is going to be counterintuitive to all the gurus that do say this. You have to have a profile that is attractive. As in, if your positioning is of an AI character and you don't have that confidence to show who you truly are, good
Mhm.
luck, get a job. You have no, zero negative chance to make it in the world of online marketing, right? Get the balls, get whatever it is, look yourself in the mirror, talk to yourself, get that confidence.
I want to just interrupt you there for a second, Pete, because it's something I've thought for quite some time, that a lot of what goes on online with marketing is almost a sub branch of the entertainment industry. Like it's a show, and people expect you
It
to put on
is.
a show.
You have to, right? Because here's the thing, if you're a dick, right? If you're a total dickhead,
Yeah.
people do not want to associate yourself with them. Even though you might be the best in the world, right? They're going to distance yourself, right? They're going to
Mhm.
distance themselves from them, right? So
Oh,
again,
well,
coming back to this,
I'm going to jump
coming
in
back
though.
to,
One sec.
yeah,
Is that if you're a
yeah,
dickhead, you at the very least should be an entertaining dickhead because you can be an entertaining dickhead and still do business online. But you got to
yes,
give people
yes.
you got to give people some reason to stick around.
Like if you're going to outperform anyone on the team, right? Then you get that little like what do you call it? You get that
The
pass
gold
card, right? Like
gold
you get a
star
pass.
employee of the
Yeah, you
month.
get you get a pass, right? Like you're bringing cash in, doesn't matter. But if that's the like what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the plate? People want to know that, right? Like I'll give you an example, right? Like Nothing Held Back, probably one of the best group right now in the space when it comes to online marketing.
Hmm.
When Alan makes a post, Alan was a nobody, although he was making a ton of money and doing all these great things before he put himself out there, right? And started giving out all these loads of value, right? And actually changing people's life. No one knew who he was, right? He could make a post, crickets. Why? No one knows. No one cares, right?
Yeah, he made a
Now,
conscious choice to raise his own profile.
exactly. Now, Alan could say, I'm sitting on the toilet, right? And then there's going to be 100 comments, right? You try doing
Wow.
that, there's going to be
Yeah,
nothing,
magic. So great.
right? So this is this is how the online industry works, right? You have to become a micro celebrity, a micro influencer of
Mhm.
whatever vertical industry that you're in. And being invisible is not going to allow you to do that. You're not Charlie Chaplin, right? You can't get away with not talking. You have to talk. You have to entertain. You have to connect. You have to help people solve problems, right? And then another thing, when you send a friend introduction, everyone's like, oh, do an introduction. Nah, this is against even what you say, right? But what I found is if you're adding people, they come, your profile should be good enough for them to accept who you are as an individual. So they'll accept the connection, but the first one to message is always going to lose, right? If you're the first person to message, you're never going to close the deal. You've lost, right?
Really?
Exactly.
Okay. You think that's just an authority and positioning thing?
It's authority and positioning. So
Okay.
you have to again, I'll share this PDF with you later and I'll walk you through the mindset behind it as well. But hey, I've made 2.5 million on Facebook. So obviously whatever crappy shit that I'm doing, right, it's
I'm here to
working.
learn. Hey, that's why if you say something that's different to what I've thought or done before, I'm interested in the why. So do
Right.
you
So what
why
happens is
first matters?
yeah, when you talk to someone,
Mhm.
right, they instantly in your mind, unless you have an external audience that's larger than where they are. So you have to think of it in terms of a ladder, right? So if they're a 7 and you're at a 5 and you make the first move, game over. If they're a 5 and you're a 7, you make the first move, you're still winning, right? So you have to understand in terms of social hierarchy what their authority and positioning is compared to where you are, and you have to make a logical decision on whether you make the first move or not. For safety measures, don't make the move, right? Let your content be powerful enough for them to reach out. Bang, you got them, right?
Yeah. Hey, this is a truth that about human nature that people are uncomfortable with, but status drives a lot of decisions.
It's the truth,
Yeah.
right? And I'm here to share the truth. Like I've got nothing to hide. It's something that is working and that has worked with me. I've got the receipts to prove it, right? And I literally just mapped this out a couple of months ago. I was doing it subconsciously and I was just looking at, okay, if I were to map it down, right? What are the things? Because I wanted to outsource this, right? As I wrote it down, I was like, this can't be outsourced. This cannot be outsourced. I have to do it. Some components of it can be outsourced. For example, what I've done right now is the audience curation can be outsourced, right? So what I'm doing, I'm having my VAs go through all of the people in my Facebook profile, associating them, having the profile link, so name, profile link, and the last time they actually posted, right? Now I'm going through it manually and identifying who my ICP is, right? That part you can outsource, right? Why? Because it's a non-tangible. It doesn't matter who gets it, whether it's you or them, right? But the audience building, all of this scrolling stuff, that invisible transfer of rapport, you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, what people call the parasocial relationship.
I
Yeah,
have no idea the fancy name, but yes.
yes, and I completely agree with this. Like the cringe AI comments are kind of just the counter example. It shows like if people feel like it's not really you, they don't want to know. And it's like
No,
even when someone DMs you, I can spot it usually when somebody's it's not the person, it's their appointment setter.
that's why people lose, right?
Yeah,
Because of that thing, because they made that pitch. So what the idea behind the sniper method is, so think that I've say you're an e-commerce store owner and I've identified that you're someone that I want to target with my services down the track. I have to think like a farmer, right? So I'm planting seeds here, there, everywhere. If I plant 1,000 seeds, about 10, 15 of them will grow, right? And that's all I need. So if you fit that ICP, I'll send you a friend request. Some will accept, some won't. That's fine. It's a volumes game. Enough people will accept for it to work. Now, you don't say anything, but what you do is you're doing this constant, they have no idea that you've actually put them into this loop, right? They have zero clue. They'll start. Look, if you go through my timeline, it's all about results, 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 results. So I
hmm
just slam it home with results. Whenever I make a post, I go to these top 25 and I make sure that I view their story. When I view their story, they view my story. Why? That's how the algo works, right? So if I'm showcasing, look, I helped this e-commerce store owner make $8 million from email and SMS, they start to imagine, they start piecing two and two together. Holy crap, I got an e-com store. Why am I not getting the same results as these guys? What are these guys doing differently? Right? So this association, right? They have to come to that conclusion themselves. That's why you don't want to open the conversation, because when you open the conversation, you don't give them that opportunity to put 1 + 1 = 2.
yeah, and to say I need to talk to this guy.
Exactly. So now you're a compelling thought in their head. You're visible all over the internet, right? Anytime they go on Facebook, you're visible all over. Why? Because you've manufactured it that way. And you're slamming home results and case studies. Well, I need to get on a call with this guy. Then when you make an offer, these people start, they're not going to comment, they're not going to like, but they're going to reach out through their DMs because they have that ego that, they don't want to see, themselves interacting, but they're going to slide through your DMs. They're like, hey, what's that offer? Send me details,
Yeah,
right? And
don't want
then
don't want to express
now,
vulnerability in a public setting as well.
exactly. So now you got them in the exact place that you wanted. But a couple of months ago, they were nobody. They didn't know who you were. You manufactured this entire process yourself,
hmm
right?
Yeah,
And people most often they don't actually start with the first step. They just okay, oh, I need to post content. They post content and they're high school sweethearts or people they knew 20 years ago are going like, wow, this is so beautiful, darling, right? That's not what that content is supposed to serve. You're supposed to get the attention. You have to treat this like an ad, right? And you have to think in terms of audience placement. When now you're in the ad space, you think you've got different targeted audiences that you're doing, right? You're doing the exact same thing, but you're doing it with organic, with manual graph versus with advertising dollars. Exact same approach.
yeah. A post is an ad, an email is an ad. Essentially, any little bit of short form content is essentially an ad if you
It
think of it
is.
that way.
Yes, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting because this year, since I started doing more lead gen stuff, I've talked about it more. I've shared results, and yeah, people do. I mean, I got on a call today. It's like people are reaching out to me all the time. Either A, hey, I've got a friend who needs that. Could I connect you with them? Because they want to increase their own status by introducing
Exactly.
them to somebody credible.
Same thing, right? Same thing. What would you do, right? Like the same thing I approached about. Even though I don't do that, I want to get value points, right? I want to get that internal bonus points tally against that person, which is why I do that introduction. Human behavior. This is all about human behavior and consumer psychology, right? Doesn't matter whether you're operating $100 million business, $1 billion business, or you're just starting out and you're making $1,000 a month. You're human, and humans operate almost exactly the same way.
And then the other interesting one has been, I had a few people reach out recently, like say, "Hey John, I want to get it. I saw you got out a direct response and you're in Nietzsche now. I want to do that too. How do I do it? Can you teach me?" And I'm like, in those cases, I just tell them, "Hey, I'm in this program. I'm not interested in teaching. I don't want to. That's not the direction I want to go. I just want to focus on just actually growing my own agency business and being a practitioner. But like, here's the program I'm in. I've actually become an affiliate for that program now because I genuinely believe in it. I'm just like, join up, see you on the calls." Yeah, but people see, they self-identify, and then they reach out quietly and say, "Hey, can I get that too?"
But it's because of the content that you're posting and the fact that you're showing your face, you're not hiding behind a screen,
Hmm.
and you're doing these reels, right? You're doing not only like, write-ups, you're doing JVs, you're doing like, launches, you're doing offers, you're doing a ton of things. But again, like, if you want to really truly scale the agency, you have to change your audience because it's a mishmash at the moment, right?
Yeah, it
There's a
absolutely
ton of
is.
people that, like, are just beginning copywriters, and there's like, of course there's service owners as well, but they're not in the particular domain that you're running at the moment. So you have to use this PDF that I'll share with you to literally boil down who your ideal avatar is. I've hired people, and like, to create lists of, like, for example, if I'm targeting supplement store owners that are $5 to $15 million per year, having a Shopify store and are in the States, right? I'm having people create 1,000, like, not just like, using Clay or AI. I'm having people manually vet through a checklist of things that I want and create 1,000-person list, and then identify, does this person have a Facebook profile and a LinkedIn profile? And then I add them and send them connections on both, right? You have to curate your audience if you want to sell a service or a product, right? If not, you have to run ads. There's no other way around it.
I've been doing a bit of both actually. I mean, I've got somebody now, VA, working on me doing that for me on the LinkedIn side, where just there's a specific ICP. I'm like, 40 of those a day, send me 40 connection requests a day. Don't bother messaging them. Just add more people so that my
See,
stuff is more
see,
visible in the
see.
feed. Yeah,
Don't bother messaging them, right?
yeah. Oh, don't, there's no
Heading in the right
point.
direction.
It's too
Yeah,
early in the day. They need to see some of my shit
exactly,
before I can have a conversation with them. Otherwise,
exactly.
I'm a stranger to them. What do they know?
Because of that positioning run, you're probably at a 5, and they're probably at a 7 or 8,
Hmm.
right? And that's what this comes down to client selection as well. A lot of times people are probably at a skill level 3, and they want to work with clients at a skill level 8 or a 9, right? Massive gap. You're going to flop. You're going to fail. It's going to be a disaster, right? Instead of going for a 7 or an 8, look, if you're at a 3, look for ones and twos, serve them, build case studies, take yourself from a 3 to a 5, and start targeting 3 fours. 5, go to a 7, start targeting sixes, like, and fives. Go to a 9, and then you can start targeting the 7 and 8s. The problem, you're at a 3, you're targeting a 7. Of course, you're not going to get any, like, clients. The people can sense that you've, like, that this is your first rodeo, you have zero experience, and they're not going to put their business that they've spent years building and entrust it to you, right? So if you're starting out as a freelancer, service owner, whatever it is, you're listening to this podcast, make that association that you got to level up before looking for people that are on the upper scale of things, right? I've been
Yeah.
in this for 10 years. Like, the first time I had an opportunity to work with $100 million company, I absolutely tanked, disastrous. The the CEO founder, these are his words at that time. Pete, I don't know who you fucking are, where you fucking live. I'm going to find you. I've got a ton of money and I'm going to destroy you.
Did
Those
he
were his
ever find
words.
you?
Nah, it
Good.
like they were about to, but then I sent that same. He had sent it to me. I sent that to his lawyer, and then his lawyer just kind of cornered him and said, "Dude, you got to shut your mouth.
Stop
This could
threatening
get
some
you in a
random
ton of
guy.
trouble."
Yeah. Stop threatening random people on the internet. Hey, I'll tell you a
Oh,
little experience I had lately. I got invited. Somebody I know has a mastermind in a sub branch,
is it that
something
Irish mastermind that you went to?
yeah, but he's not
Yeah,
actually Irish, he's from the UK, but he did a mastermind in Dublin for a day. And
pretender.
he's in the construction industry. And that was such a great experience because I had reached out to him. I met him in person a year before at an event in Poland with Trevor Tokraker, who's your former mentor as well. And I met him and I just said, hey, nice to meet you. The first time I met him, we did no business talk. We just chatted, you know, just had a nice, fun social engagement. It's cool. And then I saw a post he put up a few months ago saying, hey, I'm hosting a mastermind in Dublin in 2 months' time. And I just sent a message in, hey, I see you're coming to Dublin. If you need any help on the day, I'm happy to show up. I don't mind. Just stack the chairs, be a co-host and help you, welcome your guests into the room
Did
or
he give him
whatever.
a proper Irish welcome?
Well, actually, it was like he said, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'll let you know closer to the date. I didn't hear anything back. And then 3 days before he messaged me, he said, hey, John, I'm going to be in town on Friday. Do you want to come along for the day? I was like, yeah, great. And then he's like, actually, I need a speaker. Would you like to speak for an hour? I was like, yeah, fantastic. And spoke for an hour. And then sure enough, like 3, 4 people out of his group were like, hey, can I work with you? They wanted to work with me straight away. Because when you get introduced by people in the right context, you don't really have to have as much of a sales conversation. Just where you're standing, your spot in the room, or who puts you in a position, like tells people enough. It sort of the credibility transfers over.
And that's another thing that I want to kind of tap into as well. So I did the numbers. 67% of my business came from referrals,
Yeah,
right? It's not sustainable. I'm working on fixing that, but it's going to help you make a ton of money, right? You gotta be a master value creator. You gotta be a master value giver, and you gotta give constantly, and then you can take a couple of times, right? If you approach the world with that mindset, regardless of where you are, what condition you're in, you're gonna make it. Like it's like you just gotta develop your inner game, like, and make decisions that the future you is not going to cringe at too much, right? um
that's good in the positive and the negative. Is like, if I say yes to this now, am I going to hate myself for it in 6 months' time? And then there is also the other side of, like, if something bad happens, am I still going to be thinking about this horrible situation in 5 years' time? And in both of those situations, you can usually recalibrate where you're at in your head and say, this is not as bad as it appears. Or maybe I shouldn't do this right now. Maybe I should take a swerve left or right.
exactly.
Pete, do you have to jump? I know you've got another call
No, no,
coming
no,
up.
I've got time. I've got another half an hour. I
Oh, okay,
miscalculated
good.
the time. My meeting starts at midnight and it's 11:28, so I've got time.
You serve people mostly in the US, is that right?
Yes, 98% of my clients are in the States.
Mm-hmm.
The market is massive in the States. All the big players are there. The population size is 365 million or something. It's a
Mm-hmm.
consumption-based society with access to cheap credit. Um, and also, I'm in Australia, so the USD stretches a lot more. If I've made a $10,000 sale, I end up making $15,000 in cash collected. It's
That's
the same
nice.
thing. And I
Well,
don't have to pay GST as well. If it's an Australian client, I have to pay a 10% GST. Whereas a foreign income, I don't have to pay the GST. So it works all like, in all directions.
yeah, I totally agree. Most of my clients are in the US or the UK for similar reasons. UK is, not as big a society, but still close to 70 million people. Not as much of it as a consumption-based society as the US is, and maybe not as much cheap credit, but still quite a lot. I mean, compared to, say, mainland Europe, the UK is a much more credit-based society.
Yes.
And I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I do very little business in my local market here in Ireland for the reasons of, yeah, like scale and the spending power that people tend to have. It just isn't on the same level.
Yeah. Can I kind of dive into, I don't know what type of audience listens to this podcast
I
mainly.
don't
Can you
either.
give me a, you
I'm
don't
always
either?
surprised.
Okay.
Well, I'm surprised, people reach out to me and say, I watch your stuff. And then I'm like, oh, I'm really surprised by that. I've only got about 400 subscribers on YouTube and I publish once a week. Um,
Well, 400 is much more greater than zero, so that's a good
it's much
start.
greater than zero. I see running these weekly podcast videos as due diligence, as a way for people to do due diligence on me. When I meet somebody new, I know before they decide to spend their money with me, they're going to go and search me and look around. And the first thing they're going to see is like, oh shit, there's like 62 different YouTube videos that John's made in the past few years talking to different people. And they'll watch 5 minutes and they'll make a decision. Do I like this guy? Could I work with this guy? And it's yes, no. And if it's a yes, then they're coming back and they're going to spend some money.
Yeah, I've come to the same conclusion, and that's why I'm pushing, like, very, very aggressively on video content in the next 12 to 18 months. My business has been stable with, like, again, we do about $500,000 per year in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But it was structured that way. It wasn't designed for scale. It was more of a lifestyle business. Now I flipped the script and I'm building an agency that I can exit within the next 3 to 5 years if I choose to. And I'm
Okay.
scaling this to a $6 million agency, right, with at least 100 active clients. And I'm selling this business. So now my structure is totally different. I'm adding more layers and more elements, more, like, more focus on content, more focus on, like, systemizing the lead gen and taking myself completely out of both the sales as well as the fulfillment process, so it becomes an attractive asset for an investor to buy. And that content creation is going to play a big role, because when you're scaling, you have to focus on cold outbound, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's LinkedIn. And I had a call with a person that I view as my mentor. I had a consulting call with him last week, and what he said was, Pete, you're doing great, right? You've got a great little business, but you're only visible in the little bubble that you've created, right? If you were to make a cold email, and if someone was to search you up on Facebook, you don't even have a website, you don't have a knowledge panel, you don't have, like, articles and blogs and authoritative posts, you don't have guest posting. You're literally invisible to the outside world. No wonder you're failing at scaling, right? So I've taken that on the chin and I've accepted that as a failure. And I've looked at how other ways that I can improve. So moving forward, you're going to see a ton of content, both on YouTube as well as across my feed. I've hired a Reels, designer,
Mm-hmm.
shorts designer, a script writer that I just hired today. And we're going to be creating like an entire content strategy. So my job is, again, I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. I have people doing all the editing, doing the script writing. I just take a camera, spend 60 minutes and just smash, 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 follow the script, pass it on to the designer. They upload it. The content still gets produced, but I'm spending much less time in the mental thought process
Mm-hmm.
of getting it done and just doing the execution, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can look at this and go, okay, so this is how we should think, right? Because that's the exact way that you should be thinking if you want to level up from where you are and you want to get to that next space, right? You want to buy back your time. You want to find inefficiencies. You want other people, you want to hire people that have already been there, done that, spent 50 years in the game, run an aggressive, hypercritical audit on you and your systems so they can look at it and go, dude, you've done good on these sectors, but you fail here. And then, okay, cool. So that's why I'm not growing. Now let's fix that, right? But without that external feedback, you're not going to know, because you're in your own little bubble and you think you're doing everything good, right? But you're not.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I think that's a very fair summary of things. That's why I kind of moved to doing something completely different this year and started to learn from somebody different, just to have a different approach. So where I've gotten to now in the last few months is like basic competence at the skills I can use to actually add on more clients. And now I need to actually grow my volume of clients and the volume of work I can fulfill substantially. And that actually means now getting better at advertising myself, as well as running the advertising for clients too. Because with lead generation, the ultimate thing to say is, hey, my advertising got you on a call with this company, so it'll probably work for you too. The whole idea, if you ate the dog food, then you probably like to buy the dog food,
Check out Nibbles and Paws. They got human grade dog food.
Okay. I think I'll pass on that one. Thanks for the suggestion. Okay, so you're setting out now with a very clear plan to grow your business substantially bigger than it's been before. And that means head down, nose to the grindstone for the next 1, 2 years.
Yes. I'm living like a hermit. That's why you instantly saw on the first call, right? It took me almost 12 months to get into the state that I'm in right now, to
Mm-hmm.
understand what was holding me down, to fight my own internal demons and
Mm-hmm.
to defeat them, and to set on a new path because what I found was I was making good money, right? Like I had decent profit margins, but there was no challenge. So I'd got into a comfort zone, right? Um, it was great, but I was stunted, right? I had a couple of clients paying me 30, 40 grand a month. Um, and these are reoccurring. Like I've had a client, I got a client that's paid me what, $230,000 in the last 16, 18 months, 16 months, right? So when you have these type of clients and you got a team to fulfill, you got a lot of idle time in your hand, and you're stuck in that loop where it's cushy, it's comfy, it's chill, right? But that stunts you. That like, kind of leaves you very open to attack from external threats, right? Whether it's a market shift, whether it's a market change. And it was basically a high paying job, right? I realized I didn't have an asset that I could sell. And the people that make the most amount of money are lawyers and people that sell assets, right? Mergers and acquisitions. Um, so if I wanted to actually make the type of money that I wanted to make, I had a number in my mind. There's no way that I could make it doing the same thing that I've been doing for the last 7, 8, 10 years. I had to evolve. I had to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good stepping up as well, right? Like you walk the walk. You get to a certain point, then you either change directions as you have, or you double down, right? You realize that it's not easy, that the competition is always going to be there, but you're going to be 2 steps ahead. Why? Because you're pushing. You got that hunger, you got that desire, that drive to keep on pushing forward, right? So that's the kind of conclusion that I came to. It's just been like 16 hours a day, working nonstop, full focused, good sleep, good exercise, good great relationship with my family, my son, and just working my ass off.
Good. It's great to see. Do you want to talk about things you feel that hold entrepreneurs down internally?
You're the biggest bottleneck in your own growth. Don't be jealous of others. Always look at what are these guys doing differently? How can I grow? Always have a growth mindset. And stop listening to your inner voice if you haven't curated that inner voice. A lot of times when people sit still, they're instantly attacked by negative thoughts, by anxiety, by the bills that they got to pay, the problems that they have. Like it's all negative, 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 right? You got to learn how to control and harness your internal willpower, your mind, and to tap into that silence that we talk about in the beginning of the call, because within that silence is the answer to everything, right? You have to take yourself into a flow state, and you have to actually set targets and hit those targets. Otherwise, it's very easy to get lost. That's why a lot of successful people end up depressed. A lot of successful people, they hit that target and they don't know what to do. There is nothing else. Like humans are driven by nature. Like you have that drive. The only way we're currently in this state as a human civilization is because we dare to dream, right? And if you get into a comfy situation and you stop dreaming, you stop taking action, a rolling stone, right, catches no moss. If that stone just sits there, it's gonna get it can't get shifted. Why? Because there's weeds and there's a fern and what's the thing that you find in Scotland? You got heather, right? Like there's
Heather,
heather,
heather and thistles.
and yeah, heather and thistles, and it's like, oh shit, like I can't get this moved. So you have to have that momentum, and it's very difficult to understand and actually understand, recognize, and accept it, right? So do audits, not only for your clients, but for yourself as well. Do audits on all areas of your life, your health, your wealth, your inner health, right? Your mindset, your relationships. Do audits on everything and get critical feedback and improve with that, right? That's the only way, because if you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh, great, you're doing great, right? You don't
Oh, I
know that
never
you're
do
3
that. No,
pounds
no, no, no.
overweight, right?
No, I never do. I'm always like, hey, hey, you fucker, you need to
That's why
push
you're
yourself a bit harder.
successful. That's why you're successful, right? That's the only reason why you're successful, because you do these things without almost subconsciously.
I'm never satisfied with myself. I'm always feeling like
Exactly.
not good enough,
So
not
that's
good
the
enough, not
hunger,
good
that's
enough.
the drive, right?
Yeah.
But you will get to a point, or you might get to a point where like you're making 10 times the money that you're making now and you get content. And that's like, the moment that we start getting content, right? There has to be some sort of challenge. Like humans are wired to solve problems and to face challenges. When there's
Yes.
no challenge, right, we're fucked.
100%. I mean, look, I got complacent with like living situation and environment this year, or last couple of years. And then this year it was like myself and my wife had said, once she becomes a citizen in Ireland, once she gets her driving license, it's time to do something different. And this year all that stuff got done. And then it was like, okay, well, now we really have to do something, because we said we would. And so then we sort of went over for a few months. It's like, we're feeling like we could stay, could be comfortable. We could wake up in 10 years and be like, shit, we never did nothing. So we're making a move. We're moving down to Spain in about 2 months' time,
There you
moving the
go.
family.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a big change. The kids are excited and we're all little bit scared about it, but it's just a new challenge, new adventure, new different
You're
lifestyle
gonna
thing.
love it. Like you're gonna love Spain. Like I know Ireland's great, but like the culture, the food, the environment, that like it's just like a different shade. Like it's a tropical paradise. Like and like with the lifestyle that you have and um like the income generators that you have, it's gonna make a big difference to your family. So yeah, good stuff. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, that was exactly the same process. Like, look, there's too much moss on the stone. I've been sitting on my arse in this chair in this room for too long. It's time for a new environment.
See? Different way of phrasing it, but it's the same thought process.
I gotta wrap this up because I got another call coming up, and I know you do too. But we're gonna do a part two in a couple of months' time. But it's great to see you. You look, like I said, fitter, healthier, happier than I've seen you in years. And I'm very pleased to hear you got big plans coming up, and I wish you every success. And let's catch up again in
Thank you
six
so
months'
much,
time and do
Sean.
another podcast. Okay?
Likewise.
Where
Been
should people
awesome.
find you, Pete? I'll put it in the video description.
Facebook, hit me up on Facebook. And yeah, like you probably start seeing me a lot more on YouTube and LinkedIn, but for now, Facebook is still where anyone can find me.
Awesome. Great. Gonna stop the recording.